Hi, I'm Ella, a 28-year-old marketing professional, and I've been dreaming of my perfect wedding since I was a little girl. But let me take you back to the moment everything changed, the day my world turned upside down. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. My little sister Lily, she was the golden child, the center of our parents' universe. Not that I minded much. We each had our roles to play, but nothing could have prepared me for the betrayal that shook me to my core. I remember walking into my parents' house one afternoon, excited to finalize the last few details of my upcoming wedding. As soon as I stepped inside, the smell of fresh paint and sawdust hit me. Confused, I wandered into the kitchen, which had been outdated just weeks before. Now it looked like something straight out of a glossy home renovation magazine. "Mom, Dad, what's all this?" I asked, my voice bouncing off the brand new tiles. "Oh, sweetie, isn't it wonderful?" My mom gushed. "We decided it was time Lily had a kitchen worthy of a chef. You know how cramped her old one was." "Yeah, Ella, check this out. The space is incredible," Lily chimed in. Something cold settled in my stomach as I looked around. I didn't want to ask, but the words escaped me before I could stop them. Where did the money for this come from? My dad cleared his throat and looked away. Mom's tone was strangely firm as she replied, "Well, since Lily needed it more, it came from your wedding fund." My heart dropped. My wedding fund. The money you've been saving for me since I was born. I could barely get the words out as tears stung my eyes. "You used it for this without even asking." Lily's face fell. "Ella, I didn't know. I thought they had extra savings." "Enough," I snapped, sharper than I intended. I turned back to my parents, seeing the justification in their eyes. There was no point in arguing. They'd already made their choice. "I see where your priorities lie," I said coldly. "Consider yourselves uninvited to the wedding." "But Ella," my mom started. "No," I cut her off. "If my dreams mean this little to you, then I don't want you there." I walked out of that picture-perfect kitchen, each step away feeling like a crack in my heart. By the time I reached my car, the tears were flowing freely, but along with them came a new resolve, one as hard as the granite countertops that had replaced my wedding dreams. I would still have my wedding, but it would be on my terms, smaller, simpler, and entirely mine. As for my family, well, they made their choice. Now I was making mine, to build a life where I came first, starting with the one day that was supposed to be about me. After canceling my parents' invitations, I thought the drama might die down. But it only intensified. As I adjusted my wedding plans, rumors began to swirl. My parents were proudly showing off Lily's luxurious new kitchen, even going so far as to call it a better investment than a wedding. Can you believe they actually said that? My best friend Tara relayed, disbelief thick in her voice as we sat over coffee. "A kitchen is more important than your wedding." I let out a bitter laugh. Apparently, my life's biggest milestone is less significant than a remodel. Just when I thought my parents couldn't hurt me more, Tara shook her head. "It's unbelievable." It was in that moment, fueled by fresh anger, that I decided cutting them out of my wedding wasn't enough. They needed to feel the consequences of their actions, publicly. I needed an ally, someone who understood exactly what I was going through. Reconnecting with my Uncle Mike, who had distanced himself from the family years ago, was like finding a lifeline. He'd always been fed up with their shallow values. "You know, Ella," he said, "I've always known they favored Lily." "This is a whole other level," Mike said, his voice rough with disapproval, as we sat in his cozy, book-lined study. "Yeah, and now they're parading it around town like some kind of badge of honor," I replied, the frustration boiling inside me. "I can't just let this go." Mike leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "What if we didn't let it go? What if we let everyone see them for who they really are?" His idea was simple but brilliant, a family reunion, the kind we hadn't had in years, hosted by him. Everyone would be there, and that's where we'd expose my parents. Planning the reunion gave me something to focus on other than my scaled-down wedding. Mike and I went through guest lists and old family contacts, sending out invitations that hinted at a big surprise. By the day of the reunion, my stomach was a knot of nerves as relatives filtered into Mike's large backyard, buzzing with curiosity. I spotted my parents arriving, looking confused but cautiously pleased by the attention. Once everyone had gathered, Mike clinked his glass, calling for silence. "Family," he started, his voice booming over the murmurs. We're here today to celebrate truth and transparency among us. My parents exchanged uneasy glances as Mike continued. And what better way to do that than to clear the air about some misconceptions? He turned to me and gave a small nod. I took a deep breath and stood up to face the crowd. Many of you have heard about or seen my sister Lily's new kitchen. I began trying to steady my voice. What you might not know is how it was funded. Whispers rippled through the crowd as I held up copies of bank statements and contractor bills, all clearly showing the trail of my wedding fund leading into the kitchen remodel. The money set aside for my wedding, since I was a child, was used without my consent. I continued. My dream was deemed less important than a set of fancy kitchen appliances. Lily looked mortified, staring at her feet, while my parents' faces flushed a deep shade of red. Mike took over, his voice stern. We stand for fairness and support in this family, he said. Today, we've seen a clear example of the opposite. Let's think about what that means for us as a family moving forward. Why would your own parents do that? An aunt called out, disbelief in her voice. It seems fairness was overlooked in favor of necessity as they saw it. I replied, the bitterness of the words heavy on my tongue. Lily, her face flushed with embarrassment, stood up. I didn't know, Ella. I swear, I didn't know they used your money. It's not just about the money, Lily, I said, my frustration breaking through. It's about trust, respect. Our intention was never to hurt anyone, Dad interjected defensively. Lily needed help, and we made a tough call. A tough call. I couldn't mask the incredulity in my voice. What about my wedding? What about my dreams? The relatives shifted uncomfortably, the mood growing more tense with each passing second. Seems to me, an older cousin spoke up, you thought only of one daughter. What about Ella? Yeah, how do you justify choosing between your children like that? Another chimed in. The confrontation grew heated, with voices overlapping as family members picked sides, some expressing sympathy, others outrage. Enough. Mike's voice cut through the clamor. This isn't just a family squabble over money. It's a revelation of priorities. Today, we saw where those priorities lie. For some of us. The crowd quieted, the tension thick in the air. My parents' usual confident demeanor crumbled under the weight of the disapproving glares from those around them. The festive atmosphere of the reunion had been replaced by a somber, uncomfortable tone. Relatives began to trickle out, offering me sympathetic glances and pats on the back. I'm sorry, Ella, Lily muttered as she passed by, unable to meet my eyes. Don't be, I replied. It's not your fault. But it's clear now, I need to step away from this, from them. The drive home was quiet. My earlier resolve to expose the truth now mingled with a deep sadness. But amid that sadness, there was a strange sense of relief. The truth was finally out, and with it, the chance to rebuild not just my wedding plans, but my life, free from the shadows of favoritism and silent resentment. After the reunion, the fallout was immediate and far-reaching. Whispers of betrayal echoed through the community, painting my parents in a light they had never expected to be seen in. Walking through town became a gauntlet of hushed conversations and sidelong glances. At the grocery store or the post office, I'd overhear snippets like, "Did you hear about the Johnsons? They pulled from their daughter's wedding fund for a kitchen remodel." Yeah, and at the expense of their other daughter, poor Ella. The community's judgment was a cold comfort. It wasn't joy I felt, validation came slowly. But it was there, a recognition that the pain I had endured was seen, even if by strangers. One brisk Saturday morning, I ran into Lily at the local market. She approached hesitantly, a basket hanging awkwardly on her arm. Ella, Save it, Lily. I'm not in the mood, I interrupted, trying to keep my voice steady. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she said softly. I really didn't know. Whether you knew or not doesn't change what happened, I replied, my tone flat. They chose Lily, they always choose. And somehow, I'm always the one paying the price. Lily looked down, hurt filling her eyes, but this time I didn't soften. I couldn't. I need space, Lily, space to heal and rebuild my life without the chaos our parents seemed to bring. She nodded slowly, stepping back. I understand. If you ever, just know I'm here. I watched her walk away, her shoulders slumped, mirroring the weight I had carried for so long. But I felt lighter, stronger. Months trickled by, and rumors of my parents' misfortunes began to reach me. Their once thriving boutique, a cornerstone of their social lives, was faltering. Regular customers, once charmed by their hospitality, now saw through them. The Johnsons? No thanks, I'd overhear. Can't trust them after what they did to their daughter. As their reputation crumbled, so did their financial stability. Whispers of bankruptcy surfaced, a stark contrast to the life of comfort and privilege they had always known. In the midst of their downfall, I found my rise. My wedding day arrived not with the pomp and grandeur I once imagined, but with a genuine, heartfelt celebration. The venue was smaller, filled only with close friends and the few family members who had stood by me through it all. Every moment was a stitch mending the fabric of my self-worth. "Congratulations, Ella," Uncle Mike toasted, his eyes twinkling with pride. "Here's to new beginnings and true happiness." The reception was filled with laughter and dancing, the air light with the scent of jasmine and the soft glow of fairy lights. It was perfect, not despite its simplicity, but because of it. My career flourished as well, taking exciting new turns. Promotions came, and with them, opportunities to speak at marketing panels, sharing my experiences and inspiring others who faced their own professional challenges. My life, once filled with the toxic chaos of unmet expectations, was now full of choices I made for myself, surrounded by people who uplifted me rather than used me. One evening, I sat on my balcony, a cool breeze playing with the chimes, reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. Betrayal had been a brutal teacher, but the lessons of self-worth and resilience were invaluable. As I turned my gaze to the stars, I realized that sometimes the hardest trials forge the strongest souls. My parents' choices had set everything in motion, but it was my own choices that defined my ending. And in that quiet moment, I knew I had chosen well. That wraps up Ella's journey of facing betrayal and finding her own path to happiness. What do you think of her decision to cut ties with her family? Was it the right choice, or could things have been handled differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed the story and subscribe to the channel for more vivid tales like this one. Your support helps us bring more stories to life.